Yeah, this game for an absolute fact is absolutely beautiful. The artwork and stuff is, as I've said the whole time we've played it, is a cozy game. That's how I would describe it. It's cozy. Did I like this one better than Ni No Kuni 2? We obviously came from the background where we played Ni No Kuni 2 first. I quite enjoyed Ni No Kuni, but or at least the second game. I didn't love that one either, but it had some cool features that this game obviously doesn't. This game came first, and therefore laid the foundations of the world and the artwork and how the game plays to a certain degree. Obviously, Ni No Kuni 2 again has like different battle mechanics. I don't know which one I prefer, honestly, but this game was pretty chill. The story's good. I like that there's like bosses behind bosses at the end, and that the game continues on. You know, you think you've gotten to the end, and then there's like a whole nother segment. That's pretty cool. I quite liked Oliver as a character, but I didn't really like his friends. They didn't really do anything bad. I felt like I really bitched about Esther and I bitched about Swain, but I feel like that's just because the AI in this game feels really poor at times. It seems really inconsistent. When you get some of your mechanics later on, like your defend all and attack all, where you can push square and triangle, that definitely improves combat substantially. But it still feels wank at times. Like, I will tell my guys to defend, and then the boss will do its big attack, and then you just get hit anyway, and it's like... Or when you're crippled, and then you see your AI character in the background running around in circles, not attacking, not healing, not defending, not doing anything. When the boss gets into weak mode, where it comes up, now's your chance, and you attack, and you tell your allies to go in, and then your magic casters will bring out like their physical weapons and start like fucking, you know, like the mages will start whacking it, like instead of using magic spells and shit, and it's like, bro. Even through the commands of like being able to change the like the command, you've got commands where you can change what your AI characters are doing. I felt like those were a bit unclear and a bit scuffy at times, but then even then I didn't even know what they were supposed to be. Like, what does backup mean? What does, you know, don't use any spells. Sometimes they were still healing, sometimes they weren't. It felt a bit clunky, but I don't know. The combat of this game is pretty unique as well. The whole like minions and main characters together is very strange. I guess we'll talk about the rest in a second, but there's not much else to say. Ni No Kuni, pretty chill game. Don't know if I liked it better than the second game. Didn't love it, but I think for its time it's pretty good. The characters were pretty interesting. The story was pretty good. The artwork is probably the best part of it. The world that they've built for Ni No Kuni is very immersive, and again, it feels cuddly. It feels like you want to wrap up in a blanket by a fireplace and play this kind of game. It's got that kind of old school kind of fairy tale fantasy, and I really appreciate that. I also want to point out one thing that I really liked, apart from like the world that they've built, like going to the towns and the cities and the forests and the deserts and all the different biomes is really nice. But I also want to point out the whole like when you're playing through this game, obviously you pick up your spells as Oliver, and it feels like Oliver does go from being like a normal kid to like a fully fledged wizard in the end. You have all these spells that you pick up. Some of the spells are a bit more useful than others, but this is like one of the only RPGs I've ever seen that when you meet someone that's important, like, you know how in this game you will get to a wizard halfway through the story, someone who you're looking for, one of the sages, and then once you help the sage out, they do actually teach you magic spells. There's so many RPGs where you go looking to study, and what you're trying to learn is actually just some like unseen, untouchable kind of quest objective, where it's like they tell you how to do something, but you don't actually get to benefit it inside of your gameplay. Does that make sense? This game does that, and it actually feels very unique in a weird way. You've obviously got the compendium where you can pick up all your spells, which is nice. There's a lot of like, again, I kind of compared it to Kingdom Hearts. There's a Kingdom Hearts feel to the magic, the Wizard's Companion, the little compendium of all your magic spells. The fact that you can go in and look at it is nice, and it's kind of cool. I didn't do it that much. I didn't go in there and scroll about at all, because it feels weird with a controller like scrolling around. I feel like that's much more designed for like a PC and a mouse and keyboard, but the fact it's there is nice. There's obviously a shit ton of effort put in there, and if you were younger, or a young kid playing this game, I feel like that might actually be really cool for some children's imaginations. I think it would maybe inspire them to, you know, perhaps pursue, I don't know, interest in that in the future or something. But yeah, like, I can't really explain what I'm trying to say, but like when you get from place to place and you you learn your spells, which you can then use in combat. Like, you'll get to a sage and then they'll teach you like a fireball and a nice spell that you didn't have before. You can actually then use that. So it feels like you are actually being taught and you are adapting and learning, which is cool. Another thing the game does in that same kind of vein is that you sometimes get just straight up weapon upgrades. Like Esther will get her harp. It's not just a meaningless quest item that you need to get through like a valley or something. Let's say there's like a volcano, and in a random RPG that you play, you need a special harp to get across the volcano or something. You do it, you get across, and then that's it. That's the end of it. But in this game, you actually get given weapons. Like Esther gets her harp. I think Swain at one point gets an alchemy recipe for his gun, and then Oliver obviously gets his wand. Now, as well as those wand items just being like key items for the main story and the plot progression, you actually get stats inside of your gameplay for that. So Oliver actually does level up as a wizard when he gets those items. I wish more RPGs did that. Like when you play Skyrim, sometimes you get to the Jarl and they're like, okay, here's the magic key to the tomb. Now you need that key to progress, but it doesn't actually really benefit you as a player. It would be so nice to see more RPGs actually hand you weapons and armor and spells and, you know, bags of gold or resources that you can actually use in your own way and play through. I really think that that's like an important factor that this game has done so much better than like any other game I've seen in that regard, and it's worth mentioning and talking about, I think. But yeah, Ni No Kuni, I don't know what else there is to say. I think that's pretty much everything. I would say that the story's good, artwork's good, gameplay wasn't that exciting for me, but some people could like it. Again, it was kind of weird that you have like minions and also Oliver. In the beginning of the game, maybe I was a little bit underleveled, but I truly felt like the whole Pokemon collect 'em monster thing that you have going on in a game like this is exciting at first, but then I felt like every time I went into a boss fight, the companions, the familiars rather, they felt really irrelevant. Now at the end when I was fighting against the boss, the final bosses, that wasn't really the case, because when I ran out of mana, I could actually change to my cat familiar and get some damage in, which then pops out more orbs, which allows you to pick up HP and MP and then go back to using like Oliver and his spells again. It's a weird hybrid that they've got going on, and I think that's probably why they did away with it for the second game. It doesn't really make sense to be picking your Pokemon team, right? You've got all your different monsters that you can collect, which is nice. You've got your rock, paper, scissors kind of sun, moon, and star system going on, but then when you get to the boss, there's no sun, moon, and star system for the most part. There might be elemental things going on, like if the boss is water, or it's weak to a certain type. Like if you're fighting the robot, it's weak to lightning, right, or wind. But it felt kind of like you would build up your team, and then you wouldn't even really care about what your team was when you fought the bosses. Like I normally just played as Oliver, and until I ran out of mana, and then I would be forced to use like my best familiar. I don't know if I really liked that system. It was kind of tedious at times, and again, sometimes when you're actually doing the combat, some of the animations for the stuff that you're doing feels kind of long-winded. Like your attacks can take ages to go off, which then allows the boss to come in after you've started your animation, do his animation, and then it cancels you, which is really frustrating. Some of all these more powerful spells, there is an element to gameplay there where it's like, okay, so you know your spell's going to take 6 seconds to cast. You just got to learn to use that and fit it into the right part of the fight. You know, if you were a wizard in real life, you wouldn't probably just be able to go boom, easy peasy, fucking Hadouken, right? You'd have to maybe power up or channel or concentrate. So I kind of like that you have to factor that in a little bit, but it got more annoying than it was kind of cool. At first it was like a novelty where it was like, oh, so Ollie actually has to stand still for 4 or 5 seconds, leaving him open to attacks and shit. But then later on it kind of gets annoying. When you take 6 seconds to use your move and the boss does like 3 power-up moves in a row, it's like, I don't know. Bit unusual, but yeah, I didn't love this game, guys. I'm glad that we finished it, but I don't think it was a bad game, and I can see why a lot of people will have enjoyed this, especially when they were younger. In the modern era, I don't know how it holds up for like most adults, but if you're into the kind of cozy setting of the game, you might still have a good time with Ni No Kuni 1. But yeah, that's pretty much it.